Aloha and aloha nerds, and welcome back to the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm your host, the Salawag, and on this show I talk about flexing muscles. I know, very sexy. Aloha nerds, and welcome back to the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm your host, the Salawag, and on this show I talk about stuff I've watched and react from the gut. Now, before I get to my previously recorded material, I wanted to first wish you all well during this time of crisis. I hope you're quarantining properly, and if you are on the front lines, thank you for your service. I work at a popular retail store. It's considered an essential business, so fortunately I'm still working. I'm very, very lucky and grateful for that. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people out there that are really struggling. In fact, part of my job at that store is to sort of make sure the donations for the store get to the donation people. I handle vendors, but I also handle donations. And the specific church that we donate to is called Faith Food Fridays in Vallejo. Now, Benjamin Buggs, who runs the donation program, he goes out every single day, 7 days a week, picking up donations. One of the things he told me is that the number of people coming to the church for donations has doubled or maybe even tripled because of the crisis. That there's so many people out of work, so many people still not making enough money to make ends meet. And so I'm making this intro just to ask you if there's anything you can donate, even if it's $1. That'd be wonderful. Please go to www.faithfoodfridays.com and make a donation to support some of the people that are struggling out there. I myself just donated $25, and I will be donating more the next paycheck. If you can donate food, that's wonderful. If you can, if you're in an okay place, please donate. And if you're not, maybe this could be a place that you can go to for help. Thank you for watching this little bit. Hats off to the donations people, churches, people out there every single day still trying to make sure that people struggling can get what they need. I mean, that's real heroism there. I work a job and and then I do what I want to do. But these people are volunteering every single day to make sure people who aren't working can get what they need. So that being said, thank you for watching. And here comes the title sequence. Ooh, aloha nerds, and welcome to the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm invisible. Ooh. Aloha nerds, and welcome back to another episode of the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. I'm your host, the Salawag, and on this show I talk about things I saw and I react from the gut. Okay, just last night I had the pleasure of watching The Invisible Man, starring Elizabeth Moss and a bunch of other cool people. This, if you're wondering, hey, is it a good movie? It looks scary. Is it good? Yes, it is good and it is scary, from beginning to end. Really unexpected. Watching the trailer, you might think this is going to be, if you've seen Hollow Man, because you've been around for the last 20 years, you're expecting Hollow Man. Like, I've seen Hollow Man. This looks like Hollow Man without the funny characters. A little bit. This movie is awesome. Just right from minute one, you're in suspense mode, and that tension of the character being afraid of someone and trying to get away from them, it really starts off from the beginning of the movie. I don't want to say how it happens, it's just interesting that it does. And it does not let up until the end of the movie, until literally the last shot of the movie. And I won't tell you who wins, but the tension don't end to the end. So you gotta check this movie out. If you like horror and you like being scared and all that good stuff, this is the movie for you. Wow. With that out of the way, it's like there's not much to spoil, but there's also a lot to spoil. If you've seen all the clips and the trailers, they do a really fantastic job of not giving away how the movie comes across. I mean, a lot of the trailers show all the elements in this movie that are cliches of the genre and cliches of this kind of situation, and it puts a movie together in your head that with a certain expectations because we've seen it on movies and TV so many times. But the cool thing about this movie is that, you know, I was very curious how they're going to handle this material. I really loved Hollow Man growing up. I saw Hollow Man in theaters at like, I don't even know how old I was, 13, 14. I don't remember who took me. One of my parents took me or my aunt took me. I don't know. But I saw it in theaters and it was a great movie. So I'm expecting the same movie. And I get in and it's not that. I mean, there is a science fiction element that makes this guy invisible. But what's cool is they get right to that. They spoiler alert, they sort of explain how it's possible right from the beginning. So you don't even have to worry about getting to that moment later in the movie. It's just kind of upfront. This is potentially how this could happen. You're not going to fully know what it means or how it happens, but you know, the references to what it should be and why there's an invisible man right up front. And also all told visually. I think I'm talking about this movie because there is some good stuff to say. The way the movie is shot is everything about the experience of this film. I talk on my Why It's Great podcast about how things get shot, and I need to continue that podcast so it can give more credence to what I'm going to say now. But, you know, who your director is everything about how you experience the movie. How they choose to shoot things, even if it's not their own idea. If they choose an idea that's not their own and that idea makes the movie better and serves it better, then that matters. And having the right point of view and how to tell it. This movie was written and directed by Leigh Whannell. I recognize that name and I did not know why. I have not Googled that name since Saw came out on frickin' DVD way back when. Leigh Whannell was the actor in Saw who was trapped in the room with Cary Elwes, both of them chained and having the choice of cutting off their limb or dying of starvation and suffocation in an enclosed space. He apparently has gone on to write many movies and even wrote Saw way back when. He wrote that movie, and I remember them talking about that on the commentary. It just went over my head. I didn't really fully appreciate or understand that. But here I am fully appreciating and understanding it because he both wrote and directed Invisible Man. And the way this movie's shot, it's all shot for reveal. And this is very similar to how Saw opened. It's shot to reveal. A person wakes up, you see their face, and then you see them look at something, and then the camera moves to reveal what they're looking at. This is something Hitchcock used very strongly, shooting for reveal and shooting for perspective. These are two shooting styles. This whole movie is told through the point of view of Elizabeth Moss. Oh, forgive my lisp there. Elizabeth Moss plays the main character. I don't even know her name. I just know she's Elizabeth Moss. So who cares? She's Elizabeth Moss, and she's fighting an invisible man for frickin' 2 hours, and it's awesome. But I don't want to give too much away. I want you to watch this movie with open eyes. But it starts, like I was describing with Saw, starts on her face. Camera moves over to something that she thinks is scary. And as she's walking through her home that we're seeing for the first time in the opening scene, the way the camera just sort of follows her, it feels like we're observing her. Where you know, this is a dolly, a tracking shot, probably a few, not handheld, but probably a few Steadicam rig is a body rig that attaches a camera to your body and uses your own core to maintain the stability and to maintain the stability of a moving shot. So a lot of moving camera, but the moving camera always moving with the character, very rarely leaving Elizabeth Moss alone. And just the way there's a scene where she's the trailer already sort of expresses that she's afraid of her boyfriend or whatever the situation is. So eventually she's sort of staying with some friends just to get away from him and all that stuff. But, you know, again, revealing a bit more, her character is revealed to be an agoraphobe. She's afraid to go outside. And we don't know if she was always like this or if this is a reaction to being with this guy. There's a lot that we don't know, but it's there. It's clearly in the characters' minds, and they make references to this relationship and how it happened. But I like that when we see her at the friend's house and she's going to step outside for the first time, and the friends have just been sort of excited for this. They've been watching her be afraid to be outside, be afraid to be anywhere exposed. And it comes to a point where one of the friends she's staying with says, "Hey, can you just try go and get the mail? I'm not asking you to do anything else here, but can you try and go get the mail just for you to get outside and recover from whatever you're going through." But yeah, the shooting of it, and instead of doing the wide shot, medium shot, close up, cutting in between, get a dramatic close up of the mailbox, and then a dramatic close up of her face going what we get is this dolly shot that starts off a little bit wider, so we are getting that establishing information. And as she walks closer to the mailbox, the camera gets closer to her. So we're following alongside her, almost like a pedestrian walking by. And she's getting closer to us, and we're seeing her face as she gets, even though she's being brave, she's getting more and more terrified as she approaches the mailbox. And it's a bit, a jogger comes up in this scene and just passes by her, and she's terrified. She just freaks out and she runs right back to the house. And it really comes off as a very cute, adorable moment that endears you to Elisabeth Moss, because she seems like a little puppy. Oh, now I remember her character's name, Cecilia. This is funny to me because Elisabeth Moss's character's name is Cecilia, and I have a little dog who's named Cecilia, and both of them have the same problem. Very skittish, very scared to be outside and be around people. And so it's, for me internally, watching this movie, it was like, oh, this is a story of my dog and how she got comfortable seeing other dogs. And I'm like, oh, good job, Cecilia. A movie was made about you. Handled by someone else, it would come off as cheesy and weak, but somehow the character, even the villain who we don't see much of, has some kind of code and has some kind of reason for doing what he does. And it's really awesome. Even in the action, you see these choices are being made very specifically, and you're not completely sure why. But it's just, it's cool that you can get that, again, from how it's shot and how it was written. What is this? What is this? What is this? I shall subscribe to you not. Thank you, YouTube people, for posting stuff on YouTube. So YouTube is now feeding itself. I'm using this video on the background as I talk, so that I can make a video for YouTube, and it'll be on the background maybe of someone else's YouTube video, and then they show their friends, and they show their friends, and they show their friends, and the next thing you know, everyone's watched me in the background of someone else's much better video. Wow. If I'm lucky. Anyway. So yeah, I was just really in love with how this movie was shot. I feel like everything about the success of this movie, of course, it's in the writing, because the movie, from a writing standpoint, hats off Leigh Whannell again, it also doesn't reveal more than you would reveal if you were in the situation. So the movie, now I have to get into a bit of spoiler territory, just to sort of explain why it's great. So some spoilers here. The movie, off the bat, has Elisabeth Moss escaping from the compound that her abusive boyfriend lives in. And, oop, right there, yeah, that's him. So she's escaping from him, and the sequence is so long and drawn out, her escape, but it's so quiet and so sneaky. She accomplishes a lot, but it feels like it takes so long because you're afraid for her, even though you don't really know what's going on. You've just seen the trailer and know that he's a bad guy later. So are we later? Are we in the present? You know, you don't fully know. And so so we get to the sequence that's behind me, the Elisabeth Moss getting in her sister's car to escape, and you've been wondering for about, if you're watching this movie, you've been wondering for about 5 to 7 minutes, what's wrong? This house looks awesome. She's sneaking through the house, slinking through it, showing all the technology of the house. The house is super observed, and she's trying to get out. And you can't help but wonder, is she taking something from this guy? Is she, what is she doing exactly? Because as we get all these, like I said before, tracking shots of her walking across the house, and this is all following her being scared, but also it's establishing our location. It's establishing all the locations we're going to come back to later in the movie. That these are presented in what seems like very beautiful but storytelling shots, but beautiful shots of a gorgeous home over a cliffside that, it looks like James Cameron's house, how you might imagine it, with this amazing wall barricading this area from everywhere else. But the wall still somehow does not get in the way of the view of the ocean. So it's a genius bit of architecture, and the movie doesn't reveal until halfway that apparently she's an architect, and I think it's sort of potentially hinted that she might have built this home, or something like that, or maybe it was already here, but her particular skill set maybe makes her appreciate and understand how the house works, because she sneaks through it very well. She knows where to put her feet. She lives there, but there's something, there's a hint that her background has something to do with how she survives this movie. That she is a fighter and she's willing to do whatever it takes to survive, but also she's intelligent and has applied that intelligence to a very good career. But you don't get any of that up front. Hollow Man gives you that up front. Hollow Man gives you 45 minutes of getting to know the characters. This is very old school. They've done this since plays. Shakespeare, before Shakespeare. Read whatever you want. Establishing the character in their normal situation before the horrible thing happens. But this movie starts off with horrible stuff has already happened. This girl's just trying to escape. All that matters is having concern for her. And there's little touches like you see right there in the background. She's taking this electric shock collar off of her dog. It's her and her boyfriend's dog. And that's sort of the first hint that this guy's a bad guy. Because personally, as a dog walker, I do not like electric shock collars on dogs or things that hurt dogs. I'm sure there are cases where it's absolutely necessary, but there's a lot of times where I feel like, this is a good dog. You're probably just not a very good dog owner. People treat dogs like they're just living, like they're just breathing stuffed animals. No, this is a living thing that feels and has thoughts of its own, believe it or not. Despite what you might think out of your genius mind about who you are. I hate to blow it to you. Maybe you're not that smart. The dog might be smarter than you. And they're just like, I want to get away from you because you're an abusive, creepy, invisible man. Anyway, so she takes the electric shock collar, and it's the only kind of hint that she's a sympathetic character, because you don't know for sure if she's escaping or not in those first moments. You're just kind of taken in by how beautiful the estate is, and she must be happy, but she's not. Which is much about what the movie's about. It's about invisible problems. It's about you see someone, you think you know them, you have no clue what they might be going through. And the movie kind of takes you through that. It says, all of her friends and her sister who's in the movie, no one really knows. They've been seeing this. They've been seeing what we saw for the first 5 minutes. Beautiful home. Really nice car. You look like you're happy. You look like you're eating enough. But no, horrible things are happening that you can't see. I think then this is also in real life, just how it happens. You don't know whether some dude is abusing your friend who you care about. You don't know. Or is she abusing the dude? This is just kind of real life. I like that kind of approach where you don't know. All of a sudden, the friend does something very dramatic, or your family member does something very dramatic, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you were in that situation? that really sucks. I'm glad you're out of that situation. And that's how the friends and family approach her, because they really don't know, and they don't believe that the guy she's running from is that bad of a guy. In fact, there's a plot point that comes up in which the trailer already shows us the character allegedly commits suicide. We're going to be using allegedly for this guy, and produces a will that leaves Kate Moss with all of his money, or at least a huge sum of money that will continue so long as she doesn't commit crimes. Why is that in there? Why is that in there? All these little seeds and plants for who this guy is. But just him leaving her that money, it makes her happy. And I think it gives everyone the sense that maybe he wasn't such a bad guy, or but it just relaxes people on the concern about this guy. Or you can kind of tell that that's their reaction. And even Elizabeth Moss is really relieved and spending that money right away. That's for sure. But she spends it sort of intelligently. She doesn't buy a car with it right away. She gets something to be grateful to her friends for taking her in. And that's just a really nice, sort of slowly laying in who the character is. And again, we have the scene where she's an agoraphobe. And that's before she learns that the villain has killed himself, allegedly. So that's stuff like that. Like the writing of the character and the presentation is all done to reveal. You don't know what's going on right now, but we will get to why it's happening. And it will all be told in a way that feels like you're in the moment. It doesn't feel like exposition. It feels like the character's just barely willing to tell what's happened to her because she's kept it to herself for so long. It's very, very real. Very, very real. And Handmaid's Tale was really real too, but I couldn't watch that. But because of how great she was in that, I've actually been paying attention to when I see her, and I'm like, oh, yes, you are a good actress. You are very good. But this movie, wow, she really knocks it out of the park. She gave me a serious version of Me, Myself, and Irene when Jim Carrey beats himself up. I felt like, whoa, you made it real. That was a joke in that movie, but you made it real. Even Fight Club, it was funny, but it's not funny when Kate Moss is... I mean, it looks kind of funny, but it's still like, oh, God, this looks horrible. This looks terrible. Again, credit due to the director, the DP, the stunt crew, and all that. But, she has to perform the actual emotional reaction to it. So I thought, this movie really sells someone who's been through abuse and is working through some kind of resolution, or fighting in this case. Fighting for resolution. This is a horror movie. It runs on horror movie rules. So yeah, expect some tropes you've seen before, but presented in the most natural, kind of believable way. So I don't really want to get into it more than that. I really love the cast that is around Elizabeth Moss, in particular, the friend she's staying with. Aldis Hodge, who plays the friend that she's staying with, he plays a police officer, but even that information, not given to you up front, it's kind of perfectly doled out to you piece by piece, so that you don't feel like, all the setups are so obvious. And then there's no setup in that case. If you're not making an obvious setup, then you're really just showing us a character who's sympathetic. And, his setups don't come until they're necessary to the story, to the point they'll be later on. Because up front, all we need to care about is, Elizabeth Moss is in this sort of escape situation. We're worried about her. She's an agoraphobe. What happened to you? Why are you so afraid of this guy? All of that is what you need up front. That's your first act, to establish the character's needs and relationships. And we don't need the rest of the information until the story takes that direction. So I think control of the story and perspective, really, really well done. The performances are great. I wanted to shout out Leigh Whannell one more time. Because, of course, I mentioned Saw and all that stuff. He directed Upgrade. He directed Insidious Chapter 3. I haven't seen either of those, but after seeing this, I want to see them now. I'm like, okay, what else you got, bro? And apparently, according to IMDb, he will be directing Escape from New York. I can only wonder, will it be a reboot, or will it be The Invisible Man Escapes New York? That would be exciting. But specifically what I want to shout out about this dude is that he wrote the movie Cooties. Now, I love zombies. I wouldn't call myself the biggest zombie fan, but I do love zombies. If I watch a good zombie thing, I will finish it, and I will tell you all about it. Train to Busan, my current favorite zombie movie. Watched Kingdom, really fantastic, the Netflix show about feudal South Korea and their battle with zombies. Cooties. Cooties is a zombie flick where, for some reason, the zombie virus only affects children who have not had chickenpox yet. If you've had chickenpox, you won't get the zombie virus. It's hilarious. Which is also super real. Like, this is how kind of viruses work, where not that you can't get two sicknesses at the same time, but some sicknesses give you antibodies that prevent you from even getting affected by other viruses. And that was a very clever twist on what is a really funny, silly movie. Cooties is another one of my, I think it's a great zombie flick. Leigh Whannell wrote that movie, so I want you to go check out Cooties. Because if you like zombies, if you like horror, you're going to love that movie. It is. No one's talking about it. It's I don't think it's even a cult hit. I haven't heard anyone talk about this movie ever. But if you haven't seen it, go watch Cooties. If I'm your cult leader to get you into Cooties, then I've done one thing right in my life. Just know that this movie's awesome. Go check it out. And also check out Cooties, because that movie's fucking cool. That's a good movie. Invisible Man in theaters. This is the first movie I'm doing. This is the first video I'm doing right after the movie came out. So that's got to tell you something, how excited I am about it. I know tons of people are going to talk about it. But are they talking about it with sunglasses on? You have to think about that. So if you like this video, please do not subscribe. Do not comment. I don't want your negative comments. If you don't like it, just keep it to yourself. Go away. I will delete that shit. Go away. Yeah, don't subscribe. Do not subscribe. It's just going to be more crappy videos like this. Thank you for listening, and